Hey, what's up, fam? Thank y'all for tuning in once again. And as always, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And when you do subscribe, hit the notification bell so every time I drop a video, you will be the first to know about it. Hey, we've already done a video about the student loan, quote unquote, forgiveness that Joe Biden is promising. Still hadn't came through yet, but even if it does come through, there's nothing to really get excited about because number one, it only like a tip of the iceberg when it comes to actual amount of debt that is owed due to student loans. I mean, it said what is gonna wipe out what $200-300 billion with the student loans, but the actual number of student loans, or the actual amount for everybody who has student loans, like what, $1.7 trillion. Like I say, it doesn't even touch a 0.5%, 0.2% of a percentage of the student loan debt. And so, and then two, if you're in default, you're not going to be able to qualify for it. If you make more than $125,000, you're going to be able to qualify for it. What else? Federal loans. Like saying federal loans, you can't qualify for the forgiveness, but I also read that it could be in the works. And $10,000 ain't really much. Most people who got $10,000 probably didn't graduate from school. Well, $10,000 or less probably didn't graduate from school. Probably took out loans for a little while. Probably just took out loans so they can spend the money and then drop the classes and get that for a little bit. So now they'll be able to, but like I said, they're in default. They can't pay it. So it's not going to help, curb the wage gap between, Black Americans and white Americans. I mean, it's just, again, what it's for is just to get people hyped before the midterms, so they'll vote, for the Democratic Party because, they're scared that Trump gonna come back and still, promote certain candidates, and these Republican candidates will win. So they're just trying to dangle more carrots the way the Democratic Party has been known to do. Try to get people on their side to vote for the midterms. My thing is, if this thing isn't passed, and if all the what do you call it? If all the details ain't came out by the time November hit, then I wouldn't even entertain the fact of the idea of voting for the Democrats because of this. Because again, like I said, it's not really. $10,000 ain't really a lot. If you really want to do something for everybody, like I said before, knock that interest off, cut it down, retroactively, and let people, pay like that. But you got people that got $100,000, $200,000 in debt, which I don't know how the hell they wouldn't even allow that. But you got all that money in debt, and you're gonna pay minimum payments. You'll be 10, 20, 30 years from now, you still owe the same amount, if not more. So like I say, it's just a bunch of bull. But anyway, this video is not about that. It's about how we got here in the first place, dealing with these debts, and pretty much why these colleges will probably never be free. And also, and why college tuition went up so much in a short amount of time. And I'm going to give all the credit, post it in the description box, post the links in the description box. We're going to give all the credit to this site called The Intercept. because they have two articles. One that just came out a few days ago, and one from like 2 years ago, which pretty much summarizes in great detail. Like I said, they did all the footwork. All I'm going to do is, read up a little bit, summarize it, give my take on this, and help y'all who don't want to read, help y'all understand what's really going on, and hopefully y'all can make an educated decision. But you find stuff like that if you Google. So much information out there, and I'm just going to really emphasize that people need to really start reading and Googling and researching stuff. Because there's so much information out there, there's really no reason just to, believe what somebody say or vote just because they're part of a certain party. So you go out here and read. Hey, don't be scared, don't be afraid of what you might find, because that's just how life is. It's like things those of us, like grew up in the church and believe certain things about it, and then you're gonna find out that some of the things you believe ain't true or hypocritical to real life, and you feel like, oh man, I can't go against what I've been taught because it's what mama and grandmama, told me. But it's a good possibility people are wrong. But anyway, let's get into these two stories. Let's just break this down. The first article, which I'm gonna get into, was posted a few days ago, and it's called "The Origin of Student Debt." Reagan advisor who warned free college would create a dangerous, quote, educated proletariat. Yeah, dangerous educated proletariat, quote unquote. And proletariat is just another word for working class. So right off the rip, you see that they're afraid that people, if you educate people, the working class, they'll become dangerous to the system. But let's get into it. It says 1970. Let's see, 1970, Roger Freeman, who also worked for Nixon, revealed the right's motivation for coming decades of attacks on higher education. Let's see, it says in 1970, Ronald Reagan was running for re-election as governor in California. It said he won it first in 1966 with confrontational rhetoric toward the University of California public college system and executed confrontational policies when in office. In May of 1970, Reagan had shut down all 28 UC and Cal State campuses in the midst of students' protests against the Vietnam War and the U.S. bombing of Cambodia. He said on October 29th, less than a week before the election, his education advisor, Roger A. Freeman, spoke at a press conference to defend him. So right there, he shows you. You go against the status quo, you go against the powers that be, they're going to try to shut you down. They're going to try to take your life, your livelihood, or your lifeline away from you. And the thing is, you're getting education for free. They expect you to follow suit. And then once you, like I say, go against them, and now it's like, that's the biggest level of disrespect, I guess. Okay, it goes on. Freeman's remarks were reported the next day in the San Francisco Chronicle under the headline, "Professor Sees Pearl in Education." But according to the Chronicle article, Freeman said, "We are in danger of producing an educated proletariat that's dynamite. We have to be selective on who we allow to go to college." So here's the thing. You got these 29 college campuses. If you live in the state of California, you went to a state school, you got free education. That's something that you've heard recently with some of these schools, like Texas and maybe other parts of the country, but it hasn't, from what I see, hasn't been manifested yet. It's just been a thought or idea, but this here will show you that it probably will not come to fruition no time soon. Okay, and we continue. If not, Freeman continues, we will have a large number of highly trained in unemployed people. Freeman also said taking a highly idiosyncratic perspective on the cause of fascism. That's what happened in Germany. I saw it happen. But basically what he's saying is you get working class people and they get an education. Now everybody has degrees. People have degrees. People are going to want to hire, higher level job, which they, deserve because they, went to school like most everybody else did and got their degrees, so now they expect to get paid for it. The issue is you're going to saturate the market with college graduates. Kind of like what's about to happen with these nurse practitioners, because these hospitals, they had nurses. You can go back into history. They started out where you didn't have to have a degree to be a nurse, and then you can get a certification to be a nurse. And then it's okay to be an LVN, and then they said no, we don't want LVNs, now we want RNs, which all you had to do is get a 2-year degree. Then they came up with this thing where the hospital want to have this magnet status to be like a top-ranked hospital, but now all the hospitals want to do it, so they all say they only want to have nurses with bachelor's degrees. Well, when you get nurses with bachelor's degrees and they find out that you're paying more money for school, but you're not really getting paid a whole lot much more than people with associate degree, I don't come up with the idea like, well, hey, I got my bachelor's. Yeah, just another couple years and I can have me a bachelor's or what you call it, nurse practitioner's license. So now everybody want to be a nurse practitioner, which will oversaturate that market. But then regular nurses, you won't have enough of those. So when you oversaturate the market, the value of that job will go down too. You just naturally. So basically, what this dude is saying is, also, that you didn't hear it, but you got to kind of read between the lines. If they need some poor people, gotta have poor people to do the manual labor. And I kind of talked about that in the other videos, in a previous video, where like right now it seems like the government is trying to create two classes of people, the rich and the poor, getting rid of the middle class, because the rich need the poor to work so they can stay rich. You got everybody going to school, getting educated, whatever, then it's not, you're going to mess up the status quo. That's why a lot of people don't need to go to college. A lot of people need to, start your own business, work for yourself, try to live comfortable. But stuff like that, you got to kind of do it under the radar. Like I said, you do it going to school, well, they can keep an eye on you and watch what you're doing and pretty much dictate if you graduate, how you graduate, or what you do in some way, shape, or fashion. But if you can kind of do it under the radar, you may get more accomplished. But yeah, like I said, they need poor people to work, pretty much. Going back to what he said, it say, if not, Freeman continued, we have a large number of highly trained unemployed people. Okay, got that. Freeman was born, it say he was born in 1904 in Vienna, Austria. And he talked about, says he was an economist who became a long-time fixture in conservative politics. He served on the White House staff during the Eisenhower and Richard Nixon administration. This dude was old. It was like in his 60s. Around about 1970. Let's say senior fellow at Stanford's conservative Hoover Institution. Conservative, yeah, that's Republicans. Okay, well, Republicans back then in the 60s, when did they become? When did they go from Dixiecrats to Republicans? Like in the 50s, 60s, whatever, they started changing. But anyway, let's say a core theme of Reagan's first gubernatorial campaign in 1966 was resentment towards California's public colleges, in particular UC Berkeley, which Reagan repeatedly vowed to clean up the mess that Berkeley, then nearly free to attend for California residents, had become a national center for organizing against the Vietnam War. deep anxiety about this reached the highest level of U.S. government. John McCone, the head of the CIA, requested a meeting with J. Edgar Hoover, who's still alive back then, head of the FBI, to discuss communist influence at Berkeley, a situation that definitely requires some corrective action. Now, if y'all remember, a lot of y'all don't, a lot of us don't, because we're too young, but I mean, like I said, do some research, do some historical pieces. Back then, they was real big on that whole communist thing and Marxism, anything they thought that was going against democracy, the U.S. government, especially when it came to this Vietnam War, any kind of wars, Korean War, stuff like that, that the young folks that didn't agree with what the powers that be was doing, especially in these other countries. So they want to disassociate themselves from the ideology of the country. And again, in college campuses is where you mainly will see, especially back in the 50s and 60s and 70s, these protests. These college kids would be at school protesting, and there's a lot of Black Americans that were at these schools at the time too. And they would definitely be deemed or accused of being communist or Marxist. I mean, just think about the Black Panther Party. Think like how that's what they would call communists all the time, and were investigated and pretty much dismantled by that J. Edgar Hoover. So this has there's a lot of layers to this whole education thing and stopping certain people from being educated. And it said, like the guy said, it's only a certain type of person should be educated. Okay, during the 1966 campaign, Reagan regularly communicated with the FBI about its concerns about Clark, the president of the entire University of California system. Despite requests from Hoover, Kerr had not cracked down on Berkeley protesters. Within weeks of Reagan's taking office, Kerr was fired. Does this stuff sound familiar to anything you've seen? All of a sudden, see, people, they'll get rid of it. All of a sudden, you can be in a high position, a lot of fame and fortune. 1 minute, you go against the powers that be. Those are pretty much, they don't have to be writing your check. They just got to have more power and more influence and more money than you do. And you go against them, and then all of a sudden, you lose your job, you lose your livelihood, hell, you might even lose your life just on them people being paranoid. So that's one reason why a lot of times, if you ever ask why a lot of these rich people, especially Black Americans, don't do more for the community, don't build more schools, or, create more businesses for the community, it's for reasons like this. That in a blink of an eye, they'll take it out, and they're afraid to lose it all. Let's say Reagan pushed to cut state funding for California's public colleges, but did not reveal his ideological motivation. Rather, he said the state simply needed to save money. See that deception? See how that's deceptive right quick? But there's a lot of people, they're acting like they don't think the government would be deceptive like that, but shoot, man, whatever. To cover the funding shortfall, Reagan suggested California public school colleges could charge residents tuition for the first time. This, he complained, resulted in the almost hysterical charge that this would deny education opportunities to those of the most moderate means. This is obviously untrue. We made it plain that tuition must be accompanied by adequate loans to be paid back after graduation. So there it is right there. That's where the loan started. That's when the student loans really started. It says success of Reagan's attacks on California public colleges inspired conservative. Remember, I want y'all to keep in mind this whole conservative, right, left wing, liberal, all that kind of stuff. Pay attention to this. So this article here is telling you, so trying to show you that the conservatives or the right wing, or the Republicans, created this mess, right? Let's say His attacks on California public colleges inspired conservative politicians across the U.S. Nixon decried campus revolt. Spiro Agnew, his vice president, proclaimed that thanks to open admission policies, unqualified students are being swept into college on the wave of the new socialism. So now they're saying that people going to college who's unqualified. It's kind of like voting. Now, personally, I feel that you should be educated on the politicians and on the principles and whatever and the issues that they stand on. And that's the only way you should be able to vote. But, and two, it's quite possible that certain people, so only certain people should get into college. I mean, because there's a lot of people out there that go to college and don't drop out or just, trying to get away from home or something like that. And ain't college maturity. Which is why I feel, you should charge something for college. Not like they're doing now. Not like the 1,800% increase since 1970 that we're seeing right now in college tuition. But you should pay for something, because you know what? People do appreciate things more when they pay for it. I mean, bottom line, and that's just true. So, you give people stuff, so they might go to school and just waste time, waste the government's money. And the government, they waste enough of their own money. They don't need your help. Prominent conservative intellectuals also took up the charge. Privately, one word that free education may be producing a positively dangerous class situation by raising the expectations of working class students. Another referred to college students as a parasite feeding on the rest of society who exhibited a failure to understand and to appreciate the crucial role played by the reward-punishment structure of the market. The answer was to close off the parasitic options. So basically, they didn't want a bunch of young hippies, Black Panthers, and protesters to go to school and disrupt the status quo. That's basically all it is. This is why, like I said, you'll probably never see free education again in this country. Well, it's free structured college education in this country, because you can always be educated for little or nothing. All you have to do is start with picking up a book, or you can even watch documentaries. But books are a lot better because you can read it, you can imagine it with your own imagination, you can highlight it, you can fold the pages, take notes, whatever, come back to it when you get ready, because it's right there in your hand. You can go to a library and rent books, those are free. And you can even go on Amazon, excuse me, you can go on Amazon and buy books for little or nothing. I mean, one of the things I'm guilty of doing is, if I hear a topic and it piques my interest, I'll just find a book on it and buy the book, go to Amazon, buy the book and have it delivered. I haven't read half of them, but I mean, it's a lot. I got like bookshelves full of books. And I just read them, as as I can. But like I say, I mean, it's nothing. It may cost what? $10, $15, maybe $7, depending on what book you get. If it's a brand new book, okay, $30-something. But talking about something that you're gonna have forever. It's important you buy books anyway, because we're trying to make everything go digital. And once everything goes digital, and you don't have anything tangible in your hand, you can say, "Oh, you bought a book and it's online," but all they gotta do, it won't take nothing for them to just wipe up your account and you no longer have it. But if you got books in hand, you actually got something tangible in your hands. Tangible, big word, reparations. Those go together. But anyway, that's another story. In practice, this meant that to the National Review, a system of full tuition charges supplemented by loans which students must pay out of their future income. Let's go down a little bit. It says in 1968, the California resident paid a $300 yearly fee to attend Berkeley, the equivalent of about $2,000 now. That wouldn't be bad. But now tuition at Berkeley is $15,000, with total yearly student costs reaching almost $40,000. That is freaking ridiculous. I remember looking at commercials when I was growing up. The Dallas County Community College District, and they would do commercials saying like, it's like $25 an hour for classes, and that was pretty cheap, a whole lot cheaper than university. Then start going like $35, and then $50 an hour. Now I don't know how much it did when I was leaving. I think it was like $100 something an hour, and that was in the early mid 2000s. You feel me? So next to college, I don't know how much it is now. Well, my older daughter, or my youngest daughter's going. So yeah, I don't even want to think about the tuition that I'm paying. Anyway, let's say student debt, which has played a minor role in America's life through the 1960s, increased during the Reagan administration, and then shot up after the 2007-2009 Great Recession. The state makes huge cuts to funding for the college systems. And there you go. The next point. Education was somewhat affordable, for the quote-unquote right people. But once the government cut funding, that's why one of the reasons why your tuitions shot up. Because now the schools are not getting money from the government, so they got to get it from somewhere. I mean, that's just like laws of business, If the supplier, if you got a business and you usually sell something for $1, because you can get it from a supplier for 15 cents or 20 cents. Shoot, if it go up from 20 cents to 40 cents to 50 cents, the cost goes to the consumer. And you're going to have to raise your price from $1 to maybe $1.50 to maybe $2. But like I say, that's just the way the game goes. They say this brings us to today. Biden's actions, while positive, are merely a band-aid on a crisis 50 years in the making. They said Madison. Let's talk about President James Madison in 1822. It said knowledge will forever govern ignorance. Madison explained, and the people who mean to be their own governors must arm themselves with the power which knowledge gives. So, goes back to what I said earlier. Educate yourself. It costs little or nothing to read, to watch real documentaries, to take notes. Take time out your day, an hour, a couple of hours, whatever. Start with 15 minutes. It's kind of like I used to tell the parents of the kids when I used to coach sports, youth sports back in the day. And they're like, what can I do for the kids to get better? And I would say, go outside with your kids for 5 minutes, shoot the basketball, or throw the softball, with them for 5 minutes. Because I know 5 minutes turn to 15, turn to 20 minutes to an hour. It just happens. That's how it is. So once you get out there, you're in it. But start somewhere to become more educated, to learn, learn subjects, learn trades. You can teach yourself stuff and get out there and practice. And who knows who you might run into, who might give you a shot to perfect and monetize your skills. But you gotta get educated. Because like they say, it's knowledge will forever govern that ignorance. Which means if you ain't got knowledge, you're just ignorant. And you easily get entertained with, videos of women twerking all day in bikinis, showing their ass. And then I saw this ad that just popped up on Instagram. Someone said it was showing this Dr. 304 or something like that. Advertising breast augmentation for like $4,500 and BBLs for like, what was it? Hell, I can't remember. It was a few more thousand than that. Well, I could have had it backwards. But anyway, the thing said like no money down, 0 interest, or stuff like that. It's like, hey, that's how you should do brothers back in the day with cars. Or how you should do folks, with these houses, 0 down, bad credit, and then you move just in it, you build these houses just for any and everybody. And the riffraff included, and then and they get into neighborhoods and just bring them down. But anyway, I don't know why I got on that little old tangent there. But yeah, like I was saying, you gotta stay educated, gotta get educated, and this brings me to the second article. I'm not gonna stand here I'm not gonna stay too much on this one, too much longer on this one. Still from the Intercept, it says Joe Biden's role in creating a student debt crisis stretches back to the 1970s. So remember when I said pay attention and listen to the whole conservative, right wing, how they did this to us, but yet Joe Biden, who is a liberal Democrat, played a role in this debt crisis dating back to the 1970s. The 1970s is when it was Reagan was in California and getting ready to become president. So again, you got two wings on the same bird. Thing about them wings on the bird, they're all gonna go in the same direction. They both flap down, but one might flap down over here, one might flap down and up and down on this side, but they're gonna be in unison. They might be looking like they doing the opposite thing, but it's just a mirror of each other. Truth be told, it says as a senator, Joe Biden supported several bills that contributed to the rise in borrowing from $1.8 billion in 1977 to $12 billion in 1989. They say he played a central role in the creation of the student debt crisis that he's promising to fix. They say today more than 44 million Americans, this story was written in 2020, 2.5 years ago. So today more than 44 million Americans collectively owe nearly $1.6 trillion in student debt, a figure that has surpassed similar numbers for nearly every other form of debt, including credit cards and auto loans. You remember how you go to school, man, and the credit card companies would be sitting there at tables in the front of the school waiting for these freshmen to come in and offer them credit cards, and they can't do that no more. I wonder why they don't do that for student loans. Stop them from signing up for this stuff. They say he played a role in making it easier for students and parents to take out burdensome loans spanning across several decades. Later, his landmark bankruptcy reform legislation made it nearly impossible to discharge student loans, birthing a predatory industry and sinking millions into unsustainable levels of debt. So this dude Joe Biden is a crook. He's a fraud. He's a con artist, just like most other politicians. I know a lot of y'all don't want to see it. Y'all still want to vote for him because he's not Trump. Because Trump is a racist. I know. But Joe Biden isn't. I guess. But like I said, he played a major part. Like the story say, he played a major part in the most of us being in debt that we can't get out of. They probably our kids and our kids' kids won't be able to get out of it if they have it their way. It says in 1978, Biden supported the Middle Income Student Assistance Act, which eliminated income restrictions on federal loans to expand eligibility to all students. Now, why do you think they would do that? That's why you got to understand. People don't do nothing. People don't give you nothing for free. That's something I tell my kids all the time. Nobody's going to give you nothing that they're going to miss for free, that they want for free. If they give you their favorite food, most times because they filled up on themselves, or they know that they can, replace it easily. But ain't nobody gonna give you millions, hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to school and they don't get nothing out of it. So you always say never look a gift horse in the mouth, man. This dude's a fraud. They say Biden helped write a separate bill that year, blocking students from seeking bankruptcy protection on those loans after graduation. The income restrictions on federal loans were reinstated in 1981. Then he went on to vote to create the PLUS, the parent loan for undergraduate students, or PLUS program in 1980, and the auxiliary loans to assist students, or ALAS program in 81, which extended loan eligibility to students with no parental financial support. So now you're going to give loans to people who know nothing about, who definitely don't know anything about financial literacy, about how loans can destroy your life. I mean, it's good to have credit. It's good to have some debt if you can pay it off. But if it's some stuff that you can't pay off, it's only going to drag you down for you, and like I said, your next generation. Because if you can't afford to pay loans, that means you're struggling. Let me say that. To pay loans because you got bills to pay. Then you're going to struggle to try to get your family up out of poverty. But you got all these student loans. Shout out to my sisters and brothers too, who got all, who educated and got these loans. I'm one of them. But I don't have that much. But I mean, that people got so much student debt that they'll never pay it off. And you really won't be able to, like I say, pass down intergenerational wealth for your kids to get life insurance. Say within a few years, the crackdown on student debtor filers for bankruptcy that began in 1978 would extend beyond just the government loans in 1984. As Joe Biden was gaining seniority on the Judicial Committee, Delaware lawmaker reprised his role as one of the party's top negotiators on a new legislative proposal, which was signed into law by President Ronald Reagan. Republican, conservative. Joe Biden, a liberal, a Democrat. See what I'm saying? There's no difference between these people, y'all. These parties. It's just one smile and one smile harder. It's like they're the same people. Okay. Under the bill, which was signed by President Reagan, bankruptcy exemptions were extended to non-higher education loans, like those for vocational schools, according to the U.S. Department of Education. And that's one of the, those schools, those are the first schools that Biden did loan forgiveness for. Those, they call predatory for-profit schools that don't give you a job after they promise you a job. That's, let's say, vocational school. That's what those are. Let's see. One of the most significant changes in the higher education reauthorization was a provision that prevented students in default under the Guaranteed Student Loan Program from receiving new federal assistance. So say if you in default, you can't get more money. That makes sense. Let's say loosened loan eligibility requirements together with two new federal loan programs increased student borrowing from $1.8 billion in 1977 to $12 billion in 1989. The report says. Years later, as a senator from Delaware, Biden was one of the most enthusiastic supporters of the disastrous 2005 bankruptcy bill that made it nearly impossible for borrowers to reduce their student loan debt. The Bankruptcy Abuse Prevention and Consumer Protection Act raised the bar for families to pursue Chapter 7 bankruptcy protection. It overwhelmingly passed in the Senate at the end of the Clinton administration. There we go. Liberals, over the objection of Warren, then a bankruptcy expert who had tangled for years with Biden over the issue. She lobbied First Lady Hillary Clinton, who herself persuaded Bill Clinton to veto it. But then later, it passed in 2005. It passed 74-25, with most Democrats, including Senator Barack Obama, voting against it. The Democrats, Biden people. Barack Obama was what? Biden was the president, and Biden was the vice president. And then said Clinton, by then a senator from New York, that's Mrs. Clinton, voted for it. So I'm saying, man, politics, y'all gotta do more study. Like seriously, we gotta do more study and research on these politics and figure out how to get on code with our own people to do right for us. Cause man, they ain't gonna never do right for us because they always gonna work together when it comes down to it. They're not gonna do nothing for us individually or as a group or as a people, especially if it's gonna hurt any of them. They're just not gonna do it, man. They said the total amount of private student loan debt more than doubled between 2005 and 2011. From $55 billion to $140 billion. So you saying from 2011 to 2022, 11 years, it went from $140 billion to $1.7 trillion, which again, $140 billion, not even 1% of that 1.7 trillion within 11 years. That's a good example, like compound interest, though. I mean, you're taking out loans, but It's kind of how compound interest works. It's like you put some money in the bank and you add on to it, slowly. You add on the same amount of money every day, or let's say you double it or whatever. Like you won't see a lot of results in the beginning, but towards the end, once that money increases exponentially, shoot, man, you'll be rich by the time, in your 50s and 60s, be like a multi-millionaire. But you gotta stay the course. So like I said, you got 140 billion, shoot, like I said, now 1.7 trillion, a lot of that, probably most of that is interest. It just keeps adding on every day. They say a 2011 study from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York found that the 2005 bankruptcy bill led to a surge of foreclosures that may not have happened otherwise, translating to an additional 29,000 foreclosures every 3 months. To defend his support of the bill, Biden campaign told Politico that knowing that the bill was likely to make it through the Republican-led Congress, he worked to moderate the bankruptcy bill and protect middle-class families. Man, you ain't got no middle class. It's all a lie. You know what? I can't sit here and read no more of this, too much more of this lie. He goes on to say Biden said he's still paying off his $298,000 student debt for his 3 children. Like, really? What? Opposes free college and student debt forgiveness, calling unrealistic. But it say he got a network, let's say 2 years ago, a network of 15 million. But you ain't paid off your kids' student loan. Man, you lying. Why this dude sit up here and lie? And then he said, what else? He said he want to expand the accessibility of community college and simplify income-based loan repayment programs. So that's why, like right now, they dropped the interest rate to like 5% of your net income, but not the interest rates of the loan. Just how much you have to pay. You feel what I'm saying? So I think the loans are, let's say the loans on the interest is 10%. You're still paying 10% of that loan, but however much you owe, you only have to pay 5% of that loan each month, which doesn't add up, doesn't equal out, and it's not really helping you. It's, like I said, really putting you more in the bind. Anyway, I'm gonna put both of those articles in the description box. I know I've been going on for a minute, but I thought this was important, that something you have to see, because I don't want people to get too excited about the passage of this, whatever the hell it is, a bill, a law, executive order, I don't know. But don't get excited. Don't let it sway you to vote. Shoot, anything. It might sway you to not vote or vote against this dude, because like I said, he's just, like I said, been a long time, con artist. But anyway, tell me what you think about this story. Hey, one last thing before I leave. Understand, your enemy, to summarize it up, will not educate you properly. Period. This is one reason why I believe a lot of people say get your kids out of this public school system. Homeschool them. So I wish I would have done that back in the day. Homeschool your kids, or get them in like a private school that's geared more towards your people and what you feel that you need to learn, what your kids need to know and be educated about. Because like I said, your enemy not gonna teach you right. And they are, like I said, they're gonna get something out of it. So you can sit here and go to these schools and pay off these student loans or whatever. I mean, get these student loans and live good for a few years, but once you out of school, when reality hit, and you realize that Joe Biden or Donald Trump, neither one of these sons of guns are your friends, or these Democrats really ain't your friends, you may think a little differently about who you hold your allegiance to. But as for us, like I said before, shout out to the elder Neely Fuller. Man, we just need to be loyal to the code, because that's what everybody else does. But anyway, tell me what you think. Leave a comment below. in the description box. Leave a comment below, and then share it with the world. And with that being said, I leave you in peace. Go read a book, and then pass it down to someone else, and go get you some more books and just read. Educate yourself, people, on everything. There's a vast, unlimited amount of knowledge, wealth of knowledge out here in this world. A lot of it's being taken away from us, believe it or not. You see how they're trying to take some of these books out of the schools because they deem it's inappropriate when it never was inappropriate. Really ain't inappropriate. A lot of they're just trying to change history because they don't want your kids to know exactly how this country was founded and how it done survived and thrived. You feel me? So be smart about it, man. Like I said, get out there and educate yourself for real. Learn something. And then share your education with the world, you know? That's always the best thing to do. Be a griot. You know what I'm saying? Be a griot. Be somebody that's like a walking and living in a library. But anyway, with that being said, I leave y'all in peace. And I'll see you on the other side.